All right, welcome to another episode of the Critical Introverts podcast. I'm your host, Senor Filth. I'm with my regular co-host, the Benevolent Asshole, and we have a new guest on today. We have by the name of Grace Khoranoff. Did I say that right?
Close enough.
Okay.
It works.
I guess if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Grace. I do the art thing. I'm on Instagram, Little Artist in the Woods if you want to find me, mostly mixed media, portraiture, and figure drawing. And I'm currently on a mission to get more artists comfortable with sharing their political beliefs and religious beliefs, particularly if they're on the side of conservatism, traditional values, Christianity, because right now there's definitely the mentality that you're not allowed to, and I think that's wrong because it's
Mm-hmm.
not only a freedom of speech issue, it's a larger cultural morality issue.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's one thing that made me drove me to start my show is because
Mhm.
I think it's much more than just pretty pictures. I think there's something deeper going
Mhm.
on, and um, I think artists have an eye for I don't know what you call it, like the cultural things, and like if I see what's going on, then there has to be others that are within the creative field seeing the weird shit going on. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah, I mean, it took a while to find others because
Mhm.
I guess we'll go into it later. Just like it's very there's a lot of hive mind with
Yes,
artists, and I'm not sure if it really is like that. Maybe it's just an intimidation thing, or
I think part of it is. I think that there is definitely a large hive mind of artists,
mm,
but what happens is that hive mind scares the number of conservative artists. We'll use conservative as a catch-all, whatever.
mm-hmm,
It scares them into staying silent, which means there could be a very large number we don't know
mm-hmm.
because they're all too scared to say anything. And then because we're all too scared to say anything, nobody finds each other. And without that solidarity, it's even harder to feel like we have a place in the art world and to speak up.
Yeah, mm. Yeah, because I do get like private messages from people here and there that are artists, and I invite them on the show, but they're just they sound very reluctant to be on,
Yeah,
worried about losing work and stuff like that. So it really makes me think like how deep this bullshit really is, and like how big of a problem it. I think it might be bigger than I even anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's about reaching the regular person, and
Yeah.
like when I see like mainstream news, like how off the wall nutty just mainstream like The View is, that worries me that like my mom is watching that, and you
Mm-hmm.
know I don't know what to think.
That's even Fox News has been encouraging the transgenderism lately, so everyone's going nutty.
Yeah, I saw that was that more than that one segment because I don't
It
watch
was
Fox
not one
News.
segment, but I feel like that one segment was enough, especially because it wasn't even not even just that it wasn't saying this is bad, it wasn't even neutral. It was very, oh, look at this transgender child and they're
Yeah.
perfectly happy and healthy and this is normal and it's not.
I
So,
I think what it was for me was that they were targeting specifically the age was like babies. I think
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
mom
it
was
was.
saying, I think the mom was saying, well, she knew. Damn, I get it wrong, but she knew that she was a boy since she was like 2 years old, and I
Yeah,
knew
I
she
think
didn't
it
like wearing.
yeah.
Yeah, she didn't like wearing. She didn't like wearing dresses, so we had to like make her a boy, and she knew it was like there's no baby that's like 2 or 3 years old that knows who they are. Like they're
Yeah.
supposed. That's why, as parents, you're the one that's supposed to be there to guide them, to like help them learn about the world. Like, what's the point of being a parent if you're not going to be a parent?
Yeah.
And that, and then one of the last things statements that she said something like, "I'd rather have a trans child than a dead child."
Oh, I'd rather have a living son than a dead daughter.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. There
I
you go.
like to
That's
throw that one
exactly
around a
Jesus.
that's
lot.
exactly how she said it. Like I just
Yep,
kind of like said it
that's
how I
popular.
remembered it.
Yeah.
But like other people like that hear that, it anchors into like their emotional
Mhm.
subconscious, and like, oh wow, like she's right, and they don't really think of it uh, more practical. So Yeah, it sucks that even Fox News is doing that now
Mm.
more
Yeah.
than ever.
Yeah, when I see that kind of shit, like I think people like are replacing how would I say this? They're replacing principles with virtue signaling.
Mhm.
And like every time I see those kind of things, it's usually the parents that annoy me more than the actual kid or whatever, because the kid doesn't really know no better. But it's
Yeah, the
the
kid doesn't know. They're
yeah.
confused, and the parent then will either feed into that confusion, which is essentially grooming, or they'll
Mm.
do the child some justice and deny it, try to push against it. But it's never the child's fault.
Yeah. But also, like, you guys ever see that show I Am Jazz, I think it's called? It's like some
No, but I know
stupid,
what it is.
it's like a trans kid. It's fucking stupid, but yeah, like I said, like it's the parents more than anything are the most annoying of that whole thing, because they have like such a stick up their ass of like how, how moral and proud, and I'm such a good parent. It comes off super fake,
Yeah.
and I kind of just hate that shit. I hate like I hate this culture of like virtue signaling parents. Like I don't like that. I like, like my parents, like they would snap at me and they didn't give a hell. They didn't give a shit like who was watching or like that. Like
Oh,
they,
yeah, same.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened.
I like my dad. This is why I'm kind of like anonymous. Like my dad, like what he would do, he wouldn't like really say much, but like he would have like it was called like coco. I don't know like how do you know? Have you heard of the coco?
Coco?
Uh, Senor Phil. Anyways, like
The
the coco is like
song?
when no like it's like a way to discipline your kids. So instead of yelling at your kids like in public, what
Mm.
my dad would do, he would just kind of like pet my head, and then he has like these nice thick knuckles, and like he would just like turn his hand and just like give me the knuckle on like over the head of the little kid, like if
Oh,
I did
okay. I
something
know what
bad
you mean.
in public. So like people would just see me like like just yell like it's like what's wrong with him? It's like
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a way to discipline.
Yeah, that's me and my sister grew up knowing there's no such thing as a warning. So it got to, if we were out in public, all my mom had to do was say stop it or give us a look, and we knew to get our stuff in line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, thankfully I was always a pretty good kid, so I never got like that much
I was bad.
discipline. But like, I mean, there are some times where my dad hit me and stuff like that, and
mhm.
I definitely learned my lesson. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That time, so
it's effective.
yeah. um.
I think just having like both parents I think helps because like the mom tends to be
Mhm.
more nurturing and then like the dad tends to be more like okay you can't be doing that like he
Yeah.
Yeah.
lays down the law like he
Mhm.
it's a lot easier for a guy to do that versus like a woman and like vice versa. So I think it just having those two even as imperfect as they are they just work so well together.
Yeah.
Yeah. But another thing with like those like transgender parents, whenever there is a dad, like he's super just quiet, and he's just, the term cuck. You know the
Yeah.
term cucked, like they're super cucked and just
Emasculated soy boy.
yeah, and it's fuck, man. Like I can't imagine
Mhm.
having a dad like that, just wussified. Like I would just hate it.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think what's so annoying about the transgender parents is that they're going around talking like they're such great parents, but
mhm.
they're not. They're masquerading as it. They're saying,
Yeah,
oh, well, look at me because I give into my child's whims and I am always validating their feelings. I just want them to feel good. That makes
yeah,
me a good parent. But it doesn't. And if you are someone who's raised with good parents who shut you down when they had to and
yeah,
sent you back in the right direction, you
Mhm.
can look at that and think, that's bullshit. That's absolutely absurd.
yeah,
And it's a little annoying to watch that be glorified.
yeah, yeah. um, Tim, how do we get to trans kids and parents? So all of a sudden.
I don't know.
Oh sorry.
Anyways,
Let's direct the questions back there.
Down the
um,
rabbit.
I guess you mentioned that you were. What was your political? You defined yourself a
Oh,
very
yeah.
specific way.
Bibliocentric right wing extremist. And what that essentially means is, to the best of my ability, I try to let my entire worldview and political ideology be entirely ruled by the word of God that we find in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I don't do a perfect job of that. I haven't even read my entire Bible yet, to be completely honest. I've only been on my journey of faith for about a year, so I'm still
Mm-hmm.
learning how to do that. And in a sane world, I wouldn't have to add the right wing extremist half.
Mm-hmm.
Bibliocentric would be enough, but because society, the center line, the norm has gone farther and farther left, farther and farther away from the Bible and in the direction of Satan, I would say, just following biblical morality and the truth of God it's become right wing extremist
Mm-hmm.
in relation to everything else that we see. So that's how I've chosen to define what I think. It seems the most fitting, and I'm just going for it. And
You said you
why not?
started. You said you started about a year ago.
Yeah.
What drove you to get into it?
I really started pursuing God because of the COVID lockdown. So I guess that wasn't even a year ago now. That was 2 or 3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But watching all the churches get shut down, the government just takes such blatant advantage of the people. I
Mm-hmm.
thought, wow, this is too much. It's too overwhelming. I need to find something more powerful to combat that with.
Mhm.
So it drove me back to the church. My family found a really great church that had never shut down, never required masks, just were not following the government's orders, which really
Mm-hmm.
was, of course, a motivating factor for us to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that that pastor was absolutely incredible, and him and his wife were such great examples of faith that it was almost impossible to go to one of their sermons and not walk away feeling like it's the real deal and you need to draw closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
So that really just set it off, and since then I've been slowly moving closer to God because of that. And in that time frame, I've also, of course, made mistakes and really experienced God's forgiveness, which has been an even bigger motivator. That feeling, that experience really is something that you can't shake, and it just like makes you want to be as close to God as possible.
So before COVID, just spirituality in general was not really on your
Not really an
radar.
issue. I was raised in a Christian church, but it was in the way that I was forced to go every day when I was a little kid, and then once I was in middle school, I was kind of allowed to choose if I went or not, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a big deal. It was just because it was something my grandma did on the weekends, you know?
Mm-hmm. Was there something beyond just watching churches being shut down that drove you to spirituality? Was it something a little bit more
Just watching the
personal?
general absurdity of the world, I think.
Mm-hmm. Like,
Seeing all the crazy that was happening, because as soon as COVID happened, that was basically immediately into the Black Lives Matter riots, right? So
yeah.
the world went to hell in a handbasket so fast
Well,
that
well, yeah.
I had to look for something, right?
Well, thank God you have like really good parents, because we've talked about this before. Because I think a lot of people, like that are like your age, like they're like really young, like I don't see how they even have a chance, like with all this propaganda and everything that's going on. Because I imagine like the younger you are, the more willing and accepting you are to like these things, because you don't know
Mm-hmm.
any different. Like, so it's just some people are just growing up into this. So I'm glad you're able to like see beyond that. And
Thank you.
Yeah, it makes me
Yeah,
wonder,
I'm
like,
very grateful for my parents, that's for sure.
yeah.
yeah, it makes me wonder, like, how the next generation is gonna, how are they gonna view, like, the difference between right and wrong? And
It's
I have
scary because
hope
like
for
when,
it.
say what?
I think it's easy to go doomer mode if you're just looking at TikTok kids and seeing all the spiritual and mental illness that's going on.
Uh-huh.
But more and more, I'm seeing really great right wing like
Mm-hmm.
figureheads coming up in the Zoomer generation. You know, the 20 and under ages, and who are not only conservative but very passionate and intense, and saying we're going to go back to tradition. And there's just something about them that I think has a lot more power
Mm-hmm.
than the mentally ill, they them blue haired kids on TikTok. So I've got hope for it. I think the next generation is actually going to kill it.
Yeah, I do think, whatever you want to call, like, the right or whatever the not progressive left is, I don't know what you'd call that. I think as long as they can capture the fun again, I think that
Yeah.
they can capture, they can really
Their
influence the youth. Because I mean, like, anything woke is just boring and
It is. It's
just
overplayed.
terrible, you know? Like, my girl wants to see the Thor, whatever, what's the new Thor movie? The Thunder and Love or whatever the hell it's called.
Mhm.
And I know that like they're making it based on the when Jane Foster's Thor, and I know that that line of comic has been kind of known to just be awful and just super woke, and to see that decided to make a movie out of it, like I am so not interested to even sit through that shit.
I think what it is too, it needs to come from like a place of honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think that's where the creative part and like the most
Mhm.
the things that have like the most impact.
Mm-hmm.
And because sometimes people will just embrace their anger or other things that just are not honest, instead of like, because sometimes you might get mad at somebody
Mm-hmm.
and you might say things that you don't actually believe,
Yeah.
and that's not really being honest. Maybe you miss some, or there's certain things that you want to say but you're afraid to say those things. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason I'm bringing this up is because one of my coworkers that I worked with a long time ago, that he's also like an artist. He reached out to me, like we kind of had like little disputes online, but like we stayed we stayed in touch, and like somehow like I was able to kind of I guess I guess we could say we're cool. But he was complaining about one of his friends that was he wrote this poem, and he's like, hey, is it okay if I send you this poem, and can you check it out and read it and let me know what you think? And then
Mm-hmm.
he wrote this long poem, but there's nothing really he might I don't think he'll watch it, but there's nothing really creative about it, just because it's not being honest, because
Yeah.
it's all more saying like how much he hates him. To like really break it down, it's like him just like hating on him for like believing in the things that he believes, and it's like
Yeah.
more conservative. And that's the person that he doesn't remember. Like when he grew up, because he used to do comics with him, like when they were younger. Like
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
he didn't see that side. It was more them just doing artwork. He didn't really know his values and principles. So like
Mhm.
none of that was really he didn't know about that side of him until like
It was
now.
filthy play.
So he was surprised by like who he is now.
Mhm.
But anyways, that poem was just not honest. So it just
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
felt flat to me. I think if he was more honest, and I told him, I forget how I wrote it, but I told him, it seems that you really miss him, and it's somebody that um, you would really want to reconnect with him. Like I said, in a way where, like, to point out the things that I think he's actually feeling, instead of, because he didn't write them down. Like he was more like he was trying to suppress them through anger or through
Yeah.
this. Where it's
Yeah.
so, and I don't know. I guess whatever it is that I said,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that I said in a way where he's like, you know what? Because like I kind of ignored actually critiquing his poem. I'm more like
Mhm.
guiding him to like um, to try to talk to him. So he actually reached out to him and says, "Oh, you know what? You're right. Like I'm gonna go reach out to him and try to see if I can have coffee with him."
It's good.
So I don't know if that ever worked out, but I hope it did, because I kind of wanted to send him a message. You know what? Like your friend, if he wants, he can reach out to me. You can reach out to me, so I can we can. Yeah, it seems like he just needs somebody to talk to. Because it would be awesome to actually have him on the show as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but we'll see. I don't know.
I think the worst thing about the woke thing is you can
Mhm.
kind of tell like they're trying to prioritize the message over, the fun or the creativity part. And it
Yeah.
really stands out and really annoying.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not being honest. It's just trying to push like a narrative and agenda.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up honesty, because I
Mhm.
believe that particularly in art can just be fun, pretty superficial. I do plenty of work that's like that. It's just stuff that I want to look at.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, truly incredible, good art, high quality, fine art is meant to make you feel something. And I
Mhm.
don't think that dishonesty can achieve that.
Mhm.
Because, for example, if someone is complimenting you left and right, but you know it's disingenuous, you're not going to be flattered. And if
Yeah.
someone is just ragging on you, bashing on you, and you know it's lies, you're
Mhm.
not going to be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
So art that's untruthful also isn't going to evoke any sense of emotion, and it's going to hurt the quality of the art. And I think that's part of the reason why the left is so scared of art from the right.
Yeah.
Because they know that if we present truth in our work, it will triumph over the lies they're peddling in theirs, and that's a threat.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Thank you for making it pushing my point a lot more clearer.
Thank you for bringing it up. I was thinking about that today.
How do you feel about like Christian art? I mean, as far as like entertainment wise, because whenever I watch like I'm one of those people. I love watching like bad movies and stuff like that. And whenever I watch like bad Christian movies, it's almost very similar to like bad woke movies. Like there's this prioritization of the message, and the quality of the movie or whatever is just terrible. And
you have to balance quality and message. Your message is going to be heard if your quality sucks.
like, is it like, for you being a Christian artist, like, do you ever kind of get into that weird tug of war between prioritizing either or?
Yes. So I don't want my art to be cheesy, is essentially what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I am working towards right now, as far as being able to convey my beliefs in art, is creating a really high quality piece that has some symbolism that you can read into to get the general concept, but I'm going to always present it on my page with a little write-up explaining my thoughts behind it. But my ideal of Christian art is that I'm a huge art history nut. I love historical art, and if you look through art history, the best of the best Renaissance art is all based in Christianity.
Yeah.
It just is, biblical art has been truly a staple of artistic greatness for a long time, and it's for some reason not seen that way anymore. But I think that alone proves that you can portray that Christian message and have it not be cheesy. I do understand where you're coming from with Christian media being extremely tacky, and I think that hurts the message, and it makes Christians look cringy, and it makes the religion look stupid and boring and not fun, and like something your grandma would put on a sweater or something. And it shouldn't look like that. So that is part of what I want to do, is that I want to make Christian art that isn't this tacky, niche, kitschy thing that's actually genuine art that's rooted in values, just like it was hundreds of years ago.
How do you like keep it from becoming super safe and like, you know, oh gee Williker kind of stuff, like, you know what I mean?
I really don't know, because I'm very new to really thinking in depth about the meaning of my art, but I think the one thing that I'm practicing right now is not worrying about what other Christians are going to think of it. So the one piece that I'm working on right now has a giant red demon in it, and I can totally see other Christians saying, oh, you can't depict demonic imagery and you're going to give power to Satan. I can totally see there's probably going to be Christians out there that say that, but the key is just not to worry about that, because for me, I think we have to depict the evil side of things, because that's like a warning. Essentially, you can't talk about the glory of God and the goodness and what that does if you're not willing to talk about the alternative. So I think that's probably my number one goal, as far as not making it too safe, is just focusing solely on the truth, solely on what that means, and not how other Christians are going to interpret it or what they're going to think of it.
How would you go about like making edgy kind of Christian art? Because I had a friend in high school. He's a good friend. He actually was really into Christian punk, and he was a cool guy, and I'd listened to some of it, but you know, it had an edge to it, but it was you know, they were still, you know, quoting Bible verses and stuff like that. So
well, I think in order to do that, you have to understand that the Bible is edgy. There's scary stuff in there. There's demons and spookies, and to some extent, experiencing edginess in your own life can bring you closer to God, I think. Because when you go through hell on earth, or you make terrible mistakes, and God lifts you out and he forgives you, that, I think, gives you a greater gratitude than someone who hasn't necessarily experienced that. Or at least it can, and that'll draw you near to God. So I think understanding the edgy side of Christianity is what enables you to make that art. It all comes down to personal understanding of God and his truth, really.
Interesting. Do you know of any Christian punk bands?
I don't. I actually listen to mostly secular music.
Okay.
I'm a country music girl, so I listen to a lot of
Okay.
indie country and folk. I listen to a little bit of non worship music, but
Right.
I don't listen
I,
to
I would imagine like punk, like Christian punk music being just like,
I can't even imagine it. I don't think I've
kind of
Yeah.
cheesy.
heard of Christian punk until this conversation.
Because there is
I only remember the name of one band that he's really into. It's called it was called Officer Negative, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, he was a big fan. Go to all their shows all the time, stuff like that.
Okay.
So, I mean, I haven't heard from the guy in quite a long time, but he always stood out to me, just like an interesting
Hmm.
dude. Because I feel that a lot of people have this um image of any Christian as being like closed-minded, weird, boring, and he was kind of the opposite, but he was super Christian. Like you
Yeah.
know, he loved him some Jesus, but
well,
So there's a
no,
difference between being closed-minded and you're not going to change my beliefs,
mhm.
and closed-minded as in my beliefs will not allow me to speak to you.
Right.
So be open-minded, but not. What's the phrase? Be open-minded, but not so much so that your brain falls out. Is the
Yeah.
Christian take, I would think.
well, now that I think about it, like I remember like POD was like Christian. You guys remember POD?
Oh yeah, I
Well,
think I
I
remember
feel
them.
like some of the other stuff like early on, like POD was like a Christian band, and then I don't know if you guys heard of OC Supertones. They're kind of Christian. They're like a ska band from like Orange County.
Mm.
Kind of,
Oh,
some of their songs were kind of catchy. I like ska.
do y'all know about Half Alive? They're good. They're more mainstream, but they're open about being Christian, and they have songs that sound like normal alt music, but if you actually listen to the lyrics, it's totally Christian, and I like them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a few like back in the early 2000s. I remember like the Supertones. They kind of blended in with that sort of ska scene, punk scene
Yeah.
back then. And then POD, I didn't even know until like years later that they were kind of like Christian because
Mhm.
they kind of you can kind of suggestive, but it's not too over the top where it starts becoming like very cheesy. And,
Mhm.
like what were you saying?
Do you think that like because the Christian community can be sort of judgmental over like their art, like that's what makes it really hard for people to be Christian artists and be, I guess, edgy, as we said?
I think it might a little bit, because I suppose in a way you do have that pressure from both sides,
Hmm.
which is you have the left, which is going to be the anti-Christians pushing on you, saying nothing you're doing is edgy enough and it has no quality because it's Christian, and in fact you're actually evil for even wanting to create it.
Yeah.
And then you could have just as many people on the right who are Christians who are going to say that's too edgy, you need to make it fluffier, where's the lamb, like
Yeah.
I don't want to see anything remotely threatening in this, as if God and angels are not terrifying. So I mean, seriously, read biblical descriptions of angels. It's scary. There's a reason they start off every interaction with "Fear not." Why are we drawing naked babies with wings? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I've seen
Yes,
some
it's
like,
definitely a rock in a hard place, I suppose.
yeah.
Well, like I can't remember his name. Like, is it Jake Bravo or Jack Bravo? The one
Yeah, Jake Bravo.
Jake Bravo. He put out like an interesting point that I listened to because I wasn't on that one, but I thought that was like a really good podcast. And you guys
Hmm.
thought, but he was saying because I'm not super familiar with the Bible. Like I was brought up Catholic, but I don't know a lot about Christianity or about the Bible. But he said something about how the masculine side of like men is like the more, how do you say, like the more assertive side is not usually presented like in when you're talking about Christianity or like the Bible. It's always like
Yeah.
the more feminine side.
Emotional
The
side, yeah.
emotional, the more emotional. It's like, oh yeah, you should be nice to your neighbor, but it's never the side of like a man needs to like defend their family, be strong, and stand against all
Mhm.
adversity, regardless of the odds. And it's like that sort of like strong sort of characters are kind of like needed in I think in in pop culture too, because
Yeah.
it seems that like over the years, it's like they're breaking down like the male character, the heroic character. They keep breaking him down, breaking him down.
Yeah.
Like even like in just related TV shows, it's always like this like sim sort of like male character, or that's like always chasing after the girl, like bringing her flowers and all this stuff that in reality is not gonna work to like get her attention. Like it's
No,
like
you gotta.
like
Women like to be manhandled a little bit.
yeah.
You
Either
love
yeah,
flowers, but
that's
after
not
you've established a relationship.
yeah. It's like once you're yeah
Yeah.
exactly. But
Well,
what I
oh,
was
sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna. That's it. But like, I think we just need to have him back on. But he's more knowledgeable about that side, and
Yeah.
he's talking about having like there's like a lot of violence in the Bible, so that's why he's talking
There
about like
is.
when he does his comic, it's like well there's. I mean, I'm gonna have violence because that's like what's in the Bible. Like I'm gonna. I think the only thing he mentioned about in terms of like intensity or like not violence, but like in terms of like sex, like just you don't have to show everything. Like you can be more suggestive in certain parts where like maybe the characters are engaging in certain things, but you don't have to like indulge in these because it's not pornography. And I think that's the problem too with I'm kind of going all over the place, but a lot of these woke cartoons, it's like that's pornography. It's like
Oh,
that's
for sure.
like it's like a certain sort of like fetish. Like you're gonna like make all these characters gay. That's fine. Like, but that's like in its own sort of that's pornography. That's not really Disney anymore. That's not really Popeye, or that's not whatever.
Because they're not making it for kids anymore. They're making
Not
it for
making
the
it about-
grown-ups who are nostalgic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why the Disney is going more gay. I think it's more.
Yeah.
I think they're more.
The stupid Buzz Lightyear movie. You're telling me some child who's 4 years old is going to understand the concept of a movie being made as the backstory of a toy who is a character in another movie?
Yeah, that was
Seriously?
really confusing. Like that.
Yeah,
That was the big thing of why.
It's not for 4-year-olds.
That was the one thing I was super not interested in it. Like, people tried to explain it to me, but I was just so like, then what's the point?
It's a retarded concept.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah. Well, actually, I want to go back to what you're saying about emasculating men, especially when it comes to how we look at the Bible, because you're so right. That's one thing that Christians get wrong all the time is, oh, Jesus was just a free-loving hippie, turn the other cheek, be nice, be gentle. Jesus flipped tables and ran around the temple with a whip because people were selling doves in there. That was a thing that happened. Read the Gospels. I'm pretty sure all of them recount that.
Yeah.
I couldn't turn you to the exact verse, but it happens. And even the Old Testament is so violent. All the leaders that God appointed taking the Jews through the desert was, all right, and now you're going to go kill this clan. I've delivered them into your hands and go to battle. The entire Bible is insanely violent. So this it's almost a Christian delusion that it's about just love thy neighbor, but it's kind of a do no harm but take no shit type deal. It's not hippie doodle free love.
Who would you say it's like mostly somewhat to blame for like the softness of how Christianity's portrayed? Like, is it mostly on the Christian side, or?
I think we can pin that one on the Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. Easy.
How did that happen?
And then because you have liberal Christians too, right? You have just it might be half and half. I have no idea, but I think you can easily pin that one on the Christians. They'd like to make Jesus out to be just a softie, and then the left is going to take that over and spin it to their advantage and say, oh, well, you can't criticize whatever I'm doing because Jesus said not to judge, right?
Right.
And it's just a vicious cycle, I suppose.
I mean, you mentioned that you consider yourself a right-wing extremist.
Yes.
I guess, like, what exactly pins you as that?
100% just the fact that my views being in line with the Bible are inherently not in line with the mainstream, and as the mainstream moves more right, not more right, more left, I appear to be farther right, even though the Bible should be ground zero. So, really that simple.
Right.
The farther left the culture moves, the more extreme the people on the right seem. Especially if you're just saying, okay, here's what God says, and I'm sticking to it.
I never like asked anybody who's Christian or anything like that, but like, how would I put this? Like I was thinking earlier today, like about the concept of a sin. Like,
Mhm.
what? How is something? Damn, I don't even know how to say this. Like, if homosexuality is a sin,
Yes.
is it anything that is based on? Is there like a nature component to why it's a sin?
So all I'd be able to say is it's a sin because God said it is, right? So God created Adam and Eve, put them in the garden, and said, now be fruitful and multiply. So that establishes that God created sex for the purpose of creating life.
Mm-hmm.
And homosexuality inherently perverts that and makes sex all about the pleasure element. There is absolutely no potential for the creation of life.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it sinful because it goes against the will of God. It goes against God's purpose.
Mm.
And I think what some people get wrong is they assume that temptation and sin are the exact same thing, and they're not. Temptation is what guides you towards sin,
Mm-hmm.
and sin is acting on that temptation. So if you got a dude walking around thinking like, oh man, I really want to just go to a gay bar and get some ass, he's not sinning by having that desire.
Uh-huh.
He's sinning by going to the gay bar and acting on it. You know, the temptation is the devil whispering in our ears saying you need to go against God's plan. And until you actually take action and go against God's plan,
Mm-hmm.
you're not sinning. The difference between temptation and sin is resistance. And that's what it comes down to. And what I've seen a lot of is, I was actually thinking about that a lot during Pride Month, because I was seeing a lot of videos of Christians who were living that homosexual lifestyle and then came to Jesus and left it, said no more.
Mm-hmm.
And you would enter the comment sections and it's all these awful things being said by LGBT activists of, oh, well, you're still gay though because you're still attracted to women, or you're still gay because you're still attracted to men. And oh, you're not living your authentic self, and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to fail. And I just thought, wow, that is such a cruel thing to say to someone. Say, you're failing at a game that I don't even know the rules to.
Yeah.
So, because your true nature is never, your true purpose in life is never going to go against the word of God. It might be a struggle to fulfill. I think our temptations are directly linked to our purpose. So someone who does experience the temptation of same-sex attraction, I think they're just not being called towards marriage and family life. They're being called towards service in some other way, whether it be just a very great professional life that's going to better the human race. You know, you're going to go cure cancer. Not worrying about sex is going to give you a lot of time to cure cancer. Or being even in ministry, I don't care if we have priests who are attracted to men, it doesn't matter as long as they're not acting on it, you know?
Right.
As long as you're saying, I reject that part of my brain, I reject that beckoning, and I turn towards God, and this is what I'm devoting my life to, is his purpose for me, that's great.
You got me thinking.
That's all I gotta say about sin, I guess. It's just about resistance. It's the difference between temptation and sin is resistance. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, because I hear a lot of people, like Nate, for example, you brought up Nate, like he talks about natural law, and I'd be curious, like if like a conversation between you and Nate, like the difference between natural law and sinning, like where the connection is there, because like what you
I don't
just
think anything said in the Bible will not be justified by natural law, because God created natural law. He created nature. He created the earth. So I think if we look hard enough into it, his way is always going to be reflected.
Do you have something benevolent?
Oh, what I was gonna say, like, part of it, because I think I've narrowed it down to two main things in terms of like why people turn to homosexuality, and I think the one of them, like I brought it up before, and I think part of it is a lot of people growing up, especially as little kids, are abused, and that's what turns them, like eventually confuses them, and then they become like more sympathetic towards like that sort of lifestyle. And I think the second main one, I'm sure there's more than those two, but the two main ones I can think of is there's like a story I think with Ted Bundy too, that it's like people that are idle, and just we live in a world that we just have so much time and to like think about things, and a lot of people that indulge like in pornography. Like I think Ted Bundy, that's like how he came about. He used to watch a lot of pornography, and
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like he got to a point like a drug where
Mm-hmm.
the more you consume of something, the higher dosages you need. So he
Yeah.
would start off with just regular pornography, but then he
Mhm.
would kind of start skipping into like these more weird sort of like fetishes. And I think that's like it's like a mental illness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like little by little, it's just like it's breaking the person's soul down.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's like just like a demon. Technically, it's almost like a demon just like breaking that person down.
Yes, it exactly is, because Christians were told you need to guard your heart, you need to guard your ears and your eyes, you gotta guard what you're bringing in, because when you let the wrong things in, what you're actually doing is you're opening a door to the demonic. You're inviting
Yes.
demons and devils into your life, and you're giving them influence over you. And that's why you can start out with super innocent. Oh, it's just a little porn.
Yeah.
It spirals out of control.
Yeah, look at the story with Ted Bundy. Like I think I read that like in a Ben Shapiro book or something. But yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's how you go from watching porn to murdering a bunch of ladies. Demons.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some shit, man. Yeah, because at my job, I just got into a conversation with one of the guys, and he brought up one of the he brought up that like he used to work at a landscaping job, and one of the bushes they found like one of those like half woman torso vagina things.
Ew.
And I just joked like, man, you have to like watch a lot of porn and just gotten to a point where you're just so bored with regular porn where you get to that level. And yeah, he just tell me that like he has one, he does it, and he's like, yeah, just how you described. Like I just got super bored with regular, and I just upgraded, and I was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
That conversation turned quick. He even described like how he cleaned it and stuff like that after he used it. So
Ew.
that was an interesting one.
It's gross.
It's funny because like a long time ago, like I had like a couple, I had a friend that I don't know if he was addicted, but he just told me like he went into one of those shops with like another of his friends, and I guess there's like a back part to it, and then they were just trying to check it out. They were curious like what was in the back, and then like the guy at the front desk is like, hey, no funny stuff, no funny stuff. So I guess because apparently like people that go back there, there's like things that they do.
Yeah.
Like,
You mean like one of those viewing booth things?
yeah, the viewing booths and stuff like that.
That just sounds so
But like
disgusting.
I don't think they knew what it was because they went in like we were like I don't know how old he was when he went in. I just thought it was fun.
I guess not to cut away so hard, but let's get into your "Why Am I So Honest" post.
Good one.
That's what I always get so interested. I've always the reason why I'm able to talk about this stuff. Well, I'm talking about more politics, not the stuff I just mentioned, but it's because I've been so honest. Like I've always been honest and blunt, and it's gotten me in trouble in certain situations. But now more than ever, I think people do need to be honest and speak up.
Yeah.
There's like an attack directly on everyone.
On
And,
truth
I'll
and
leave
everything.
on truth and just on people. Like I don't know if you guys heard recently. The last thing that I heard is that transgender people can actually have to take a shower with like regular.
Oh yeah, in the army or in the military or something like that.
In the military, so
Yeah.
it's like imagine all the predators are just gonna sign up for that. It's like okay, I identify as a woman, and
Yeah, that's
dude, it's like that.
just
That's
bizarre.
Transgenders in the military isn't even stupid from a moral standpoint and political whatever. If we look at it strictly from a medical standpoint and having a strong military, it's stupid. So I have my little sister's type 1 diabetic, needs insulin injections constantly. Because of that one fact of needing shots to stay alive, cannot be in the military.
Yeah.
Even though she wants to. A transgender needs hormone shots all day.
Yeah.
They can't do battle when they're jabbing hormones into their thighs. I don't understand why we think they can do that. They can't. It's insane.
Yeah. They become such a safe, like a guarded community that it's people just become so afraid to make any kind of criticisms. And this is what you have. We're gonna have the weakest military ever. It's gonna be weird.
Yes. And that's exactly why if you're gonna be one thing, you ought to be honest. Because if you're not, the world just crumbles. You
I
lose, the world goes nutty.
yeah. I guess let's talk about your why am I so. I have to say that like that's actually how I found you,
Thank you.
through Instagram. I'm not sure how I found you. Maybe I was just some weird
The
algorithm
algorithm was in my
thing.
favor.
But yeah, I found your post and I went through it and I was like, I invited you to the show right after like I saw it, I read it, and because I thought you'd be an interesting addition to the show. So
Thank you. I hope I have been.
I guess like if you want to just want to explain what we mean by your why I'm so honest post.
Yeah, so at the time that I posted that, I had a lot of reels up that were very overtly political, a
Mhm.
lot of very religious posts, a lot of very I did quite a few posts right when Roe v. Wade got overturned, kind of gloating about it. And I have taken those down just because, not because I want to go quiet about it, just because I want to redirect my strategy. I think the reels come off as a little bit tacky. I just want to
Mhm.
do it more professionally and really get a stronger message across. I don't think I can do that through reels.
Mhm.
But essentially, the reason why I want to be so honest and open, like bold and loud about my political and religious beliefs on my art page is because so many artists feel like they can't do that,
Mhm.
because I've always wanted to do art, and once I started getting into politics, I figured, okay, well that's a dead dream now. I can't do that because my only options are to shut down, lie, or get fired, and I don't want to do
Yeah.
any of those things. I'm not a liar. I want to make money, so I don't want to get fired, and I'm too loud to shut up. I don't care
Mhm.
for that. I like being loud and speaking about things, and it's just who I am. I'm not going to shut up and keep quiet and watch other people be silly.
Mhm.
And that made me really angry for a long time, just thinking about that and having art teachers over and over again trying to push me into college, not understanding why I didn't want to do that was because of the political atmosphere. I just wanted to make
Mhm.
it on my own and force it to work. And
Did you know ahead of time that like college was like that at a young age?
no, not until I got into politics. Not until I got into
Okay.
politics, I figured out that college was like that. And I guess because of that, because of my own lack of conservative role models in art and my own belief that as long as I held my faith and I held the views that I did, that I would not be able to succeed in doing my passion, which is just a heartbreaking thing to think about.
Right.
I just wanted to say, okay, well, if not you, then who? Go
Mhm.
ahead, go out there. You have no followers. No one cares about your art. Just go be loud about it. You'll get someone's attention.
Mhm.
Say, conservatives have a place. Christians have a place. They always have in the they have in art history. It went away at some point. Let's bring it back.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I think the point of me being honest is that I don't care anymore if I succeed financially in art. I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom one day. I don't care if the art takes off or not.
Mhm.
The real goal is that if I can get just one more, if I get just one more artist who thinks the way that I do to believe that they can speak out about what they believe in and still succeed, I've won.
Mhm.
It's just to make other artists have that place to look and say, okay, I can do this, I can be honest, and I don't have to be quiet. I can still succeed. The
Mhm.
liberal mob does not have me under control, and the left wing does not have a monopoly on art. I have a right to be heard, and I can put my art out there. I just want other people to feel like they can give it their best go.
Have you got any like responses by other Christian conservative artists yet?
I have. I've gotten a few that have said, "Oh, this is so great." I've gotten DMs about it. Maybe just two or three saying, "Oh, this is great. I want to go into fashion," and that's exactly the same.
Mhm.
And I am so glad to see someone else speaking out. I've got another one. Christian artists need to stick together. I've gotten a few, not a ton, but enough to make me happy.
Mhm.
And that's what it comes down to, I suppose.
Mhm. Is there any like Christian artists that are relevant now that you are a fan of?
There's one that I follow that I like a lot. Let me just check his username really quick. Okay, so it's Dio Gloria Art. I'm not sure how many followers he has. Okay, 20.4 thousand. That's not a small number.
Okay.
And he does mostly digital art. It's a lot of symbology of a lion and a lamb, but I
Mhm.
love how outward he is with his faith in his art. And during Pride Month, he did two really great pieces about it was essentially showing people casting off the pride flag as they got closer to Jesus, and he did really great write-ups explaining the concept of why pride is a sin. And the reason that I love his work is because my old pastor said, truth without grace is mean, and grace without truth is meaningless. And I think that Dio's art perfectly balances grace and truth. So it makes something that's very meaningful and beautiful. So that's not exactly a famous name, but I don't think 20.4 thousand followers is anything to scoff at either. So I like him, I guess.
Yeah, I think I need to work on my grace.
Me too. That's a hard one.
It's like,
it's so easy to look at people and say, "Ah, you are just a moron, aren't you?" Grace is a difficult one. Definitely a tricky virtue.
I guess to go with like the why I'm so honest post, like I guess we can kind of shift more into like your general, like, is there any frustrations with other just conservatives or just the right in general?
I think, if anything, my problem with the right in general, I think this is very slowly becoming less of an issue. So slowly, it's a turtle race. But it's happening because you get slowly more and more prominent figures and influencers saying that this is a problem, but it's the squishiness of the right. The right has great ideals and no action, whereas the left has great action and horrible ideals. And we need to match their energy. We let the left stamp on us all day. We let them trample us with policies and take over the schools and control the art. And why? Why do we let them have moral control over the world? Our ideas are better. And why? Because we can't let go of the First Amendment with absolute freedom of speech. That means that we're allowed to talk to. That means we're allowed to scream over the left if we want to. That doesn't mean that we just get to let their ideals trample theirs. It just means we can't shoot them for saying it. So that's my biggest gripe with the right now is
that's one thing that I've been that's one thing about the right that I've always been kind of annoyed about. It's just like they've just exposed themselves to just be such pussies, and and it's a bummer because you'd think that they'd be tough, pro gun and all this shit, but
you think so? They're all talking, oh yeah, I'm pro gun because when the government comes around to steal my babies, I'm gonna shoot them dead. It's like, how about we just stop the government from getting to that point in the first place? But you don't want to. You won't have to fight for your life if you fight for the culture. If you preserve a stable culture, you're not going to end up in the life or death situation. And that just seems to be lost on the right.
It's like a barking chihuahua.
It is.
But part of it too is dogs. I think people are kind of disillusioned too because the people in government don't represent us accurately. Like people that are conservative, even like liberals, they don't represent the people. So that's part of the problem too. So people are just like, whatever. They're not gonna. We elected this person. We thought he was gonna do something, and he just not representing us the way we thought he was. So whatever. Let's just give up.
I 100% neither conservative nor liberal, Republicans and Democrats, they're both awful. They're one big body that's against the people. And, the founding fathers said no taxation without representation. I 100% believe that we have returned back to that time where we might as well have British Parliament controlling us because our politicians are so out of touch. Their salaries are insane. They have no idea. These people went straight from private school to college to office. They don't know what it's like to be a normal working American and hold a steady job. There's a complete cognitive disconnect from the reality of America and these people, and we just follow them blindly. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Didn't they give themselves a raise like this past year?
Oh, I'm sure they do it every year.
I think I saw some posts about that.
Yeah, I think there's like a disconnect. I'm sure I brought this up like in one of the early episodes that most of the politicians, they don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to work with their hands. They don't know how to do anything. They have
no skills.
They don't have any skills.
Midwits, a lot of them.
All it is like rhetoric. It's all just like trying
it's kind of all become a stage, and they're just playing actors. They're just like background characters for like the West Wing or some shit. Just
it's like they all cast for like certain roles. Like you'll see like some strong Republicans, but they'll only play their role up until a certain part when it actually really matters for them to say something or do something. That's when they kind of like wimp out. I'm like, okay, well, it's like, what was the point of like the act 1 and act 2 if you're not gonna finish the job in act 3? It's like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
your character arc just like took like a just went back.
Major plummet.
Yeah.
Just
Plateau.
climatic.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that, like, I think actually just what do you call it? Like, influencers have they're doing a way better job than actual politicians. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they're reaching what's most important is just the culture. They're reaching people, and it's something about, I think, the right needs to kind of learn how to do, just connect with the regular person. Maybe it's like, I guess, how would you do it, I guess, just to try to connect? Is it through, like, do you see your Instagram page as a start of that?
Yeah, I see that as a start. I see it as ideally a little influencer type gig, I guess. But one thing my dad told me a few years ago when I was really expressing concern that I wouldn't be able to succeed in art was he just said, Republicans buy art too, which is true. I figure if I can make something that the people like and then they see the message in it, boom, connected with the people, and you just gotta draw them in with the pretty art. It's like I'm an anglerfish and my art is the shiny bauble, and then I eat you with my ideals. That's the goal.
Yeah, there's like other people just like you just don't know it until like you actually start expressing it, and it comes to like honesty and grace. So people will eventually see that, and that'll represent like a value to them, and I think that's where the success actually comes from. Not trying to be somebody else that you're not, or like compromising yourself, but by being honest with yourself, and then people will see that honesty and they'll connect with you and they'll want to buy your art.
Yeah.
People know when you're not being authentic. We've been living in a world of lies and pageantry and all that for so long. I think people are craving a bit of authenticity. I think that's going to speak to the common people a lot.
Yeah, that's not like, I'm noticing like the podcast thing is becoming more and more popular because I've been listening to podcasts for probably like 10 years, back when like no one knew what the hell a podcast was. And like I always liked it because it was just genuine, real conversation. And now that I'm seeing it become kind of popular, that's a nice sign that like people are bored with whatever the script is and they just want to hear just genuine, real conversation.
Yeah, I don't watch the news anymore. I get all my information from YouTube commentary and podcast, and then if they say something, I'm gonna look it up later. But the reason why is because the mainstream news is just so disingenuous. Whereas if you're gonna go for a podcaster who genuinely cares and has that heart, it feels more important. It feels like a normal conversation. That conversation element with someone who cares just it makes you feel like you're not being lied to.
Yeah. It's also like it's like I look at like mainstream media in general as just like one big distraction.
Yeah,
from
it is.
Trying to find out like what's going on. Like I like doing the show because I just like to like, I follow the things I follow, and I just like to like sort of, like therapeutically like ask other people like what have they seen, like what do they know, and we compare and contrast, our realities, I guess. And
yes, read books and talk to other people. That's all you can do. News will do you no good, and it is a distraction. Ghislaine Maxwell, her trial lines up perfectly with the leak of the Roe v. Wade opinion.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So whenever something big happens in the news, you have to think, okay, what are they trying to distract me from, and go do some digging. Yeah. What have we talked about in a while? What are they trying to keep me away from?
Yeah. Who was it that said something like what's her name? Ghislaine Maxwell?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced for trafficking to nobody or something like that. Like one's
first person ever sentenced trafficking children to nobody.
Yeah.
What was interesting, like when she was sentenced though, like is that she got 20 years, and then like after that, like almost like at the same time, I think R. Kelly
Yeah, he got
got
30.
sentenced 30 years. And some people were complaining about that, but I'm thinking that if she hasn't been speaking, she's been calling out names. I think maybe R. Kelly was one of them. Like
It could
she
be.
said something that because I mean that's like a big. I mean, you would think she would get like a lot more, but like R. Kelly
Yeah.
got more than her. It's like she must have said something. Like I don't see like the timing. There's no coincidence.
I mean,
I
I
think
think
those two
it's
things are somehow connected in some way.
yeah, like her clientele probably have a lot of power, and
Mhm.
it's just
Definitely not a coincidence that we haven't seen the flight log.
yeah. Like it's so weird. Like I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the show, but that like I remember the Epstein thing being considered a conspiracy theory like years ago. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, Pizzagate and all that stuff, and now it's just true. And then all that's came out of that is just a meme of Epstein didn't kill himself. Like,
Well, that's what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth.
yeah,
5 to 6 months.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really fucked. That like,
It
Also,
is.
that's like one like
What was I gonna say? Never mind, I forgot. Go ahead.
oh I was just gonna say like that's one of the bigger red pills too like
Mhm.
from like like when Trump was president is that like right away like I can see the difference like things were happening like that's when Keith Raniere was arrested. What's the name of the other Hollywood mogul? I can't remember his name.
Weinstein.
Weinstein.
Weinstein got arrested. Keith Raniere got arrested. Allison Mack got arrested.
I think Kevin
This
Spacey
other,
also got in trouble.
he got in trouble several times, but the
Yeah.
thing about him, like, is that every time he gets in trouble, the person that is like saying incriminating, like saying something about him, oh, he did this to me, like they always end up, like somewhere underground. I always end up
Yeah.
like taking a dirt nap. So that one is also Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks has like a lot of people that people are.
I've
and
heard
a
of
lot
Tom Hanks though.
Left the country when the Epstein thing happened, and everyone has just ignored that. And he's in the new
Yeah.
Elvis movie now. We're all like, oh yeah, let's go see the Elvis biopic, and totally forget that Tom Hanks ran away from the country as soon as some pedophilia stuff came out, because that's not suspicious at all.
And then and then this other guy, Peter Niger too. He's like also like he also owned like several islands, and then there's like another John of God. He also was arrested. He also was doing human trafficking. He would like get women like pregnant, and then he would sell their kids and do that stuff.
That's lovely.
Yeah. But all these guys that own islands that like he was all John of God. He was also on Oprah. All that stuff happened during the last administration. Now that we're like in the Biden administration, it's like the complete opposite. Like you're hardly getting anybody is getting arrested. It's all like open borders and we're no longer energy independent, but supposedly it's Putin's fault.
Yeah.
I mean, it
because
is.
those people who need the amount of privacy afforded by an island aren't up to good things.
Yeah.
And then we send 40 billion or no, was it billion, no trillion, right? No, hold on.
Gas tanks, you mean?
To Ukraine.
The Ukraine, the Ukraine thing. Was
My
it
family thinks they're laundering money.
Yeah, they probably are.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't they also like send a bunch of gas to Asia like yesterday?
Yeah,
or
why
something?
did we send baby formula to Mexico? That made no sense.
No, it's weird.
They're trying to hurt the American people, and it's so painfully obvious, and everyone just ignores it.
Well, this is kind of like off topic, but before you ask the next question, I want to bring this up because I always want to bring it up, but I never say it. Because so many people, like whatever, regardless of what you think of Putin and like Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine, all I know is that the president of the Ukraine at one point cross-dressed, and he's like in this music video.
And I think he was like a comedic actor before.
Yeah. He's supposedly like a comedian, but like
he's a comedian, and it's actually pretty. I guess I'm not going to say well known because they don't tell people this, but the entire Ukrainian government's made out of literal Nazis.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact.
Yeah.
And then if I don't know if you guys remember, but like if you go back to like one of the Dave Chappelle interviews, I think he was on either Oprah or like with somebody else, but he said something about comedians that make it in Hollywood Like I think it was
Martin
what's the name of
Lawrence.
they always end up wearing a dress. And I'm trying to remember the names, but like all the famous black comedians, they always end up at one point wearing a
Yeah.
dress. And I think that's one form of compromising somebody. If you can get somebody to get to that point to where they wear a dress, I mean, what else are they capable of doing? It's like
Yeah.
people need to look at these things. Like if he's willing to put on the dress or like make a fool of himself, humiliate himself in front of people,
Mhm.
he's pliable for control.
Mhm.
It's like, so that's the way I look at Zelensky. I don't know, whatever you want about like what's going on over there, but to me, he's controlled. It's
Just a pawn.
Yeah. The whole Ukraine thing, I'm just not paying attention to it because I just don't know what to think and I don't care.
It's one of those things where I think it's a sham, but the Ukrainian people are actually getting hurt because of it.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I 100% believe that there is some sort. I'm
Mhm.
probably a conspiracy theorist, but 5 to 6 months. I do think there's a larger plot that involves a few countries being in bed together and real people are being hurt because of it. So my heart goes out to the Ukrainian people, but not Ukraine the government.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's like there's nothing. Yeah, and that's the thing.
there's
People think that we're against like the people of the Ukraine. The people have nothing to do with any of this
Yeah.
stuff.
Nothing
It's
to
like
do with
we're
it.
just getting in the middle of like all these corrupt governments, and like the
Yeah.
governments are doing all this stuff, and it's all the people are just innocent people.
Mhm.
It's almost like there's like a great reset or something happening.
Because
Well, they blew up the Georgia
the Ukrainian people
Guidestones.
could very well just be our future.
Say it again. Say it again.
The Ukrainians could very well just be the future of America. They're people being completely disposed of by their government for whatever whim, and we're the same way. We just aren't being bombed yet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Good times, It's good times.
for sure.
And we're kind of running out of time.
Oh man.
How many more questions do you have? Like,
I was gonna get into if you could want to talk about disappointed in any like teachers and role models, but I'm not sure if we have enough time for that. Unless you want to come back on another time.
I would totally be willing to come back on another time. I think all I have to say about that is just that young artists don't have good role models. What they have are system pawns who want to push them into college so that they can't think for themselves anymore, is essentially what I think our teachers are at this point.
Yeah, I think maybe we should leave that for another episode because I do find it interesting. People like that have been so played the character being so open-minded and against the grain, but really they're super pro-establishment kind of weasels. It's weird. Anyways, I guess we'll just end it there. I guess, Grace, if you wanted to plug anything before you go.
Yeah, so all I have right now is the Instagram, at Little Artist in the Woods. My dad makes fun of me for that being as long as it is, but I think it's cute, so I'm keeping it. And it's really the only place you can find me. Anywhere else is going to be linked there at some point. Working on getting an Etsy shop set up, but that's a long way off because I really don't like filling out the shipping information. So just at Little Artist in the Woods on Instagram. That's it. I have art there. I am going to increasingly have more religion and politics there. If you want to keep up with me, that's where you find me.
It's funny because it is a long name, but it's like a very visual. It's like it's really easy to remember because I kind of visualize like a little elf like.
It's like a whimsical.
I'm going for kind of a whimsical cottagecore thing, cutesy, and I like it because it sounds like Little Cottage in the Woods, which is a children's book, which I think acts as a good memory device, and also because all my art that I post is posted outside in the woods. I frame it and I hang it on a tree. That's how I post the pictures. So makes that make sense. Is also why I did that.
All right, I guess we'll just end it there. I'll be on the lookout for my Big Cartel store. I have some more merch coming in soon. If anybody wants to check it out. You have any last words, Benevolent?
No, I think your shirt is really cool. The one I'm probably going to end up getting the Bruce Campbell, the
Evil Dead one. Yeah,
the Evil Dead one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like the colors too, like the orange and
Yeah.
is it like orange and white?
it's red and white, but
Oh,
I need to take better pictures of
Evil
it.
Dead is like one of the best movies ever.
It really is. I mean, we could talk about Evil Dead next
So
episode
good.
if you want.
We totally could. Why not?
Sam Raimi.
Talk about the political themes of Evil Dead if you want. I don't know.
After you've mentioned that, I love making fun of that movie. I love it so much.
All right, I guess. Oh, did you?
It's such a good movie. I was gonna say it's such a good movie because it's like suspenseful in the way that it's shot, but at the same
Mhm.
time, it's like funny. It's like
It is.
It's like
Yeah.
you get the best of both worlds. Like just like
It's one of those
laughing.
movies. Yeah, it's one of those movies that works for anyone. Like if you're into
Mhm.
horror, if you're into comedy, like there's even slapstick Three Stooges type of horror in it. That's just
Yeah.
great, and Bruce Campbell's fucking awesome. Yeah, it's just a perfect little trilogy. Anyways, I guess we'll just end it there. Thank you guys for watching. Grace, thanks for being on. Benevolent, thank you
Thanks
for
for
being
having
on.
me on.
And yeah, you're welcome anytime to come on. And
All right, awesome.
yeah.
Anytime you are strapped to get someone on, I will totally do it.
All right, cool. All right,
Awesome.
see you guys. Peace.
See you. Bye.